10 seconds. All right. Welcome to Hannah's Corner, Kalia.
For having me.
Of course, of course. For all you tuning in and about to tune in, I'm really excited to introduce our guest for Hannah's Corner this Thursday evening, Kalia Vandever. She is a Brooklyn-based trombonist, composer, and educator. She studied at the very prestigious the Juilliard School. She studied trombone, and she is now a performer and educator, and she released in 2019 her beautiful album called In Bloom, which is a compilation of some quartet pieces, originals, and duos with guitar. So we're very pleased to have her on the show. Feel free, for those of you watching, to ask comments and to engage, and we'll do our best to answer them. So thanks again, Kalia. Let's just start off by maybe telling us maybe how you got into music. Was it at a young age, and what kind of drew you to the trombone?
Sure. Kind of a funny story. So, my dad was playing Adelphia Marcellus or Marcellus family CD around the house when I was, I don't remember how old. I think I was 10, but if my dad is watching, feel free to fact check that. But I was pretty young when I heard the album, and he had always been playing jazz around the house growing up. So I was used to hearing that sound, but I had heard a solo of Adelphia Marcellus's, and I asked what instrument that was. Oh, that's trombone. And I'm like, okay, that's the instrument I want to play. I decided right then and there, like that's what I wanted to play. I was really drawn to the sound. So we got me a Yamaha horn, and I think it was a string horn that was smaller, but it was still too big for me to play at the time, so I couldn't reach seventh position. So I would figure out quirky ways of getting out to seventh position, one of which was playing with my toes. Um, and yeah, and then from there, obviously my body grew, so then I was able to play all positions, and yeah, and then I got into jazz mainly when I went to high school. So so yeah, so that's when I really dove deep into the music around high school.
Yeah. Yeah, similar for me. That's kind of, well, I started like listening to transcriptions first, and then in high school joined like a youth group. Was it like a similar thing for you? Did you have like a jazz ensemble you were a part of?
Yeah, so there was I was a part of a couple like youth orchestras and youth jazz bands growing up, and one in particular was at the Orange County High School for the Arts, and they started in seventh grade. But I was in fifth grade at the time, and my sister was going to that school, and they needed a trombonist, and so they actually asked me to come to big band rehearsals after school, like when I was not even of the age yet to be attending this school. Um, so then I started going to those rehearsals when I was in fifth grade, I think, fifth or sixth grade. And then that's when I was playing jazz and big band music regularly and kind of got a hold of what I was doing, or started to at least. And then around seventh and eighth grade, when I was going to Orange County High School for the Arts, is when I was playing in a combo and in big band as well. And then I went to Los Angeles County High School for the Arts starting in ninth grade, and that's when I started discovering a lot of the music that I'm mainly influenced by today. I was studying with a couple people that I really look up to. I was studying with at the time when I entered high school.
Oh, wow. Who are a couple of your mentors or influences?
Yeah, one of my main influences who I studied with starting in ninth grade was Walter Smith III, and he plays with trumpet player and composer Ambrose Ackbay. So both of them are two of my biggest mentors, I'd say. And I'd still listen to their music today. And so the fact that I got to study with Walter was pretty incredible and definitely influenced the way that I play and improvise today.
Wow. Yeah, those are some fantastic mentors to have. And I bet it was a really rich jazz scene and being around, LA and in California. Would you say that it was?
Yeah, definitely. Especially at the time, there were more jazz venues. Now there's only a few, which is too bad. But at the time, there were probably three or four that I could frequent. One of which is the Blue Whale, which is one of my favorite venues of all time.
Heard of it, always wanted to go.
It's one of the best, honestly, in the country. It's one of my favorite venues, and I've had the privilege to play there with my band once or twice at this point, which is really which is really nice and also sentimental because I spent most of my high school years going to the Blue Whale.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the venues I went to. I forget, there was a couple more in Little Tokyo, in downtown, because I was living in downtown LA at the time when I was going to high school. So I went to a couple of the venues around there, but they sadly don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then the combos at my high school got to play at Catalina Jazz Club, which is another great venue that I haven't been to in a while, but we had the opportunity to play there every year with our combo.
Oh, wow. Great. So you got a lot of great performing opportunities starting when you're young, which is awesome. Were you like ever afraid of going on stage, or were you just like all about it?
I was always afraid for the most part. Yeah. I still get nervous when I perform. I mean, it depends on the setting, but I still get the pre-performance anxiety.
I do too.
I have a way of kind of subduing it now when I get on stage, and like methods of calming myself. But especially in high school, I remember my friends and I, before performances or before a test in a class, we would crowd in a practice room and just like practice everything frantically before we had to go on stage or before we had to go into class and like take a test or something, because we had some pretty intense classes and improvisation classes in high school. So yeah, some of the most vivid memories I have are us like cramming into a room and figuring out how to get the material together.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been there too. I can relate to that feeling, that frenzy that kind of hits where you're like cramming everything and you're like, I get the butterflies. What I'm curious, what are some like calming mechanisms that you use before you go on stage? I'm always open to hearing them.
Yeah, one I learned actually a while ago, I think it was before an audition, was eating a banana before.
From a professor. Does it work?
It does. I think it also could be, my mind telling me that it's working in the moment. But I remember I was going into an audition and I was my most nervous and I just needed anything to help me. And someone's like, "Oh, eat a banana, like it'll help." So I did, and it did. I think there's something about the potassium going through your system and kind of just balancing out your body sugar or something. I don't know. I don't exactly know the science of it, but it worked.
Oh,
I'll do deep breaths. I think when I go on stage, when I go on stage, and especially before I play, I know for myself, if I just take a couple like really deep and slow breaths before playing, I'm a little more centered. And also staying hydrated. Some of the lessons I had at Juilliard with my teacher, if I wasn't getting something or if we were working on something for a while and I was just really frustrated, he was like, "Okay, take a break, go drink some water, and then come back." And something about that, also playing a brass instrument, like it's just always really important to stay hydrated, and just drink a lot of water. So that's what I try to do.
good. That's
It seems simple, and it doesn't seem like when you're talking about that it would work, but it does.
more power to you. I just want to interrupt you real quick. We have some guests saying that your volume is a little loud or soft. Would you be able just to turn up a little?
Yeah.
And I'll turn down a little bit.
Is
There
it
we
better
go.
now?
Here, let's
Now?
ask them if they're still there. Felicia and Gerhardt, is it any better if you're still with us? Can you give us a comment or a like? I turned down a little and you should be a little bit better. Can you just say hello or a little bit?
Is it better?
There we go. Yeah, I think let's see what they say, but it should be.
Turned up most of the way, so it's weird that it's.
Oh, it's
The mic makes
Zoom connection thing. It's fun.
closer to the mic. Is this better?
Yeah, can you get even a hair closer? I think that's helping.
Hello. Closer? Is this better?
I think that's better, and they'll give us a thumbs up if it is. A little bit better, she said. Your friend Felicia said better. Okay.
Oh,
Thanks for joining.
Sorry for what we were saying before. Okay.
Oh, we were talking about ways of hydrate and get ready before going on stage. Those are all awesome ones. I've just tried the deep breathing and everything, but no matter what I do, sometimes I cannot get rid of those little pesky butterflies. It's so hard.
Still tough to even today, you know. Even I've played with my quartet quite a bit at this point, but it's still hard to kind of get in that zone of just always feeling comfortable and confident when you step on stage. But it's
Yeah.
getting every performance it gets a little easier, you know, and then you're thrown into a more challenging situation and then you feel like you have to start at square one again, you know. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the nature of what we do, or at least the nature of how I react to, you know, new situations and everything. But yeah.
Which is, I'll go through that. And probably having a band that you've worked with for a while helps and that you have good rapport with. So talk to me a little bit about your band. So who's in it and how you met them?
Yeah. So it's a quartet. I started arranging for different settings. So I wrote In Bloom and Lost in the Oaks quite a while ago. I think while I was still at Juilliard or finishing up at Juilliard. Um, and I originally arranged those songs for sextet. So it was piano, bass, drums, myself, alto saxophone, and um, and trumpet. So there were six of us, and then we did probably one performance as sextet, and then I switched to quartet, and that was cordless quartet for a little bit. So it was me, saxophone, bass, and drums. And then I felt like I missed that element of having piano or guitar because I like playing with both piano and guitar quite a bit. So yeah, so and then around probably yeah shortly after I graduated from Juilliard is when I formed the quartet that I play with today. So that's Theo Valentini on piano and Nick Dunstan on bass and Connor Parks on drums.
Oh,
So
very
that's the
nice.
quartet that I perform regularly with, and that's the quartet that's on my album. Um, and then I have a couple of tracks.
A little.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, sorry. I would just, I'll play it in the background while you're talking. We'll see if that works for everyone listening so we can hear a little bit of your 2019 beautiful album called In Bloom. Let me
Cool.
just share this here. Um, uh, bear with me. Here we go. This is called Sing Less. That's a little sampling right there. Go back to. All right. That was really pretty. Was that you singing, Kalia?
Yeah, that was me singing.
Very, very
Um,
pretty.
yeah, I just like a couple months ago, or I don't remember when I performed it live by myself for the first time, but I figured out an arrangement to play that song by myself in a performance setting because I've started doing solo performances in the last year or so, and I have recently taken up guitar, or like I said a year ago, but I'm still struggling. um,
So,
but with my pedal board, I'm able to, you know, create a loop on trombone and then play over it and then sing over that as well. So I've only performed that song solo once, but it's something that I'm hoping to do more. But I wrote that song on guitar,
yeah.
my good friend Lee Medvin in mind. So he's a really great guitarist in New York City, who I met through mutual friends in college. He went to NYU for jazz, and we started playing together a lot in college. And then since then, we've really developed a great musical relationship. And he came on tour with us in December. Actually, we did an East Coast tour. So a lot of the new music that I've written since then has been for guitar in the quartet, which is nice. And then we had a show at Winter Jazz Fest in which I featured both Lee and then my pianist Theo. So it's nice. I always like changing things up and writing for different instruments. So it's hard to sometimes only play with the same people. But the people that I do play with are really incredible, and I have them in mind when I'm writing the music.
That's fabulous. Speaking of your newer music, would you be willing to play one of your newer songs for us on Hannah's Corner?
I'm gonna just shift the sound a little bit. So let me know how it sounds when I
Yeah.
start.
All right.
So this one is called More of the Good Stuff Later.
All right.
Shift the sound a little bit. So let me know how it sounds when I start.
All right.
All right. Well, I'm hearing the video on your end. Weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's because I just clicked it. Apologies.
You're good. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't on my end.
Wow, that was definitely a sonic experience. Beautiful. By the way, your friend Zechariah L. Megerbel said, Kali, it's so good to hear your sound. It's so refreshing and inspiring as always.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you.
Hellos from Melbourne. We got Julia Stone says hi, Kalia.
Hey. Oh, cool.
We got some friends tuning in, which is good. So
How the
that,
sound?
that kind of your sound, I was kind of going to go off of Zachariah's comment. Is that what you're known for recently, getting into like sounds with loops and things like more electronic influenced?
It is something that I've been doing more recently. Just with the solo set that I've been putting together. Um, with the use of the pedals and everything, it's been something I've been interested in, at least creating like soundscapes through the use of looping and delay and such. So it's something I've been interested in and I've always been attracted to. Um, it's a part of my sound. I wouldn't say it's the only thing that I've been doing recently, but I definitely have enjoyed incorporating it into what I do.
Yeah,
Um,
innovative. I haven't heard anything like it. Is in terms of your work, just from what I've heard from In Bloom, I feel like your melodies are very hauntingly kind of they linger. They're beautiful. There's an elegant simplicity to a lot of them, and there's a lot of space around your melodies. It's like I feel like you can sit with something for a while and kind of let it simmer, and that just creates like a really relaxing, meditative space, I think, for listeners.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't, I listen to a lot of singers, a lot of songwriters. I've been always influenced by songs with words, and I've tried to incorporate it in the way that I write music instrumentally. Um, while sometimes, and I'm trying to get into writing lyrics now, which is its own feat in itself, but I think when I sit down to compose something, I always have the melody in mind first. Usually a melody, or I have two melodies in mind. One being the main voice, and then In Bloom is a good example of that, where I had the bass ostinato line in mind first, and then I played it on the guitar, and then I sang the melody over that, and that's the melody that you hear me playing on that recording.
So
Uh,
there's layers going on. You really had to think through in terms of arranging.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, you know, I melodies at the forefront, and then kind of every other line falls into place directly following the main melody. So that's often how I write. Recently, like there's been other ways of composing that I've been attracted to, or have found cool ways to kind of adapt my voice to. But yeah, for the longest time, I'd say when I started composing for this quartet, it was a melody first, and then often a bass line or something like that. And then we're also familiar with each other's sounds, so I think it just naturally kind of falls into place when I bring the music to my quartet.
Very nice. Is there a lot of kind of influence from the group? Like, do you come in and you're like, here's this idea, and you kind of let them help you develop it, or do you have like a real vision for each song?
It depends. Sometimes I have a really specific vision, and then other times I'll bring in just a melody, and then I kind of say, like, I'll give them some ideas, but I'll leave it up to them. Um, they're all really great improvisers, so I think the nature of the band is kind of to just like listen to each other and um, respond to how the other person is playing. And if I have an idea in mind, like I always, if I'll say like two words and then they'll play something, or and then that'll pretty much be it from then going forward. I really admire the way that they all play, so I think it's easy to bring new music in. Um, and it's been interesting when I've had to bring some of those compositions in to a different setting, or if I get commissioned to write something for a different group, I have to come in and like be really specific, which I think is a good challenge for me as a leader, to like learn how to be a lot more specific and decisive, like going into a setting, as opposed to relying heavily on the members of the group, which I've been thankful enough to rely on them in a way where I'm not even thinking of it as like being dependent on them specifically. But when I have to like bring in a sub, or play with a different band, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I need to like explain things a little more just because I haven't had to so much because I know my musicians really well.
Yeah, that's a great way to, it's a sign of a good group that's going to stick together. If you don't, if you all speak the same language and either, and it flows, then there you go. That's a rare find. So I just wanted to go back to an earlier thing we were talking about mentors and influences. You've had the amazing opportunity to work with some really cool people. I know you mentioned a couple of them already, but Herbie Hancock, I think, was on there too. Um, what have these experiences been like? Meeting these mentors? I think Ingrid Jensen was on the list too. How have they really influenced your music?
Yeah, so I met both Herbie and Ingrid when I was in high school. Um, if you've heard of the Thelonious Monk Institute, now known as the Herbie Hancock Institute, out in LA, they had I think they still have a peer-to-peer program, it's called, where they take the top combo from certain arts high schools and pair it with an educator. So, you know, the combo I was in, we were paired with Ingrid Jensen, and then another year it was Antonio Hart. And we go to different high schools in different areas. So we went to Boston once, and then we went to we were in Memphis. And on one of those trips is when I met and got to play with Herbie, which was crazy and so yeah, so amazing. He was really encouraging. I just remember him leaving a really incredible um, impression on me at the time, and I was really young and like still learning how to play jazz. I feel like but he was really encouraging and really a really great, yeah, just a really great influence. And Ingrid Jensen as well, someone who I'm still in touch with today, was also a really great influence, especially as a woman in the profession. Because at the time, I wasn't really aware of some of the hardships I would face as a woman in jazz. But she came in and she was so confident and like told everyone how things needed to be. And I think at that age, I needed that and I needed to see that. And ever since then, whenever I run into her, it's always really great. And I've continued to learn a lot from her.
Definitely. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of hearing her perform and meet her through professors like Ellen Rowe at Michigan. And she's made her appearance in Ann Arbor quite a few times. And she's a great band leader. And to be able to see, I think, a female role model that's so, just has great command of the band and of ideas and is really clear with direction and really, but still very open, I think is a rare find. So that's really cool you had that experience.
Yeah, it was a really great experience at the time. I think there were three women in my combo, and I think it was important for all of us to kind of have that mentor at that age. Yeah.
Definitely. So in terms of where you're at now, so you and Bloom came out in 2019. You're working on new music now. Are you planning to have a new album come out soon or a single?
Yeah, well, I was going to record this year,
Yeah.
so I don't think that'll happen now. But we have a whole album worth of music to be recorded. So hopefully, we can do that early next year. And then I generally like to like speed up the process and getting things out just because I can be hard on myself, and I know that if I like wait too long and sit on recorded music for a while, I'll want to not release it. So I think once we do get the new music recorded, it'll be out shortly thereafter. Hopefully there'll be a project that'll come out of this whole experience of being home all the time. And I've always wanted to record my solo music, both solo trombone, but also voice and guitar and influencing that as well. So I think this time I'll focus on that just because it's a solitary act of, just playing by yourself, which I can do right now. So yeah, so I think, hopefully either the solo project or a new quartet album will come out in the next couple of years. But I think for now, nothing will be released with my quartet because we don't have it recorded yet.
We're all in the same boat together. I know it's an angsty time, but it's good that you're still finding the creative impetus to continue and that drive to keep writing, which is sometimes challenging.
It has been challenging, and I don't think that until recently, like very recently, in the last week or so, I haven't felt like writing anything.
Right. Something big happened in the last week. I don't know if you were at liberty to talk about your commission.
I think they just announced it yesterday. Yeah, yesterday morning. But I got commissioned to write a piece for string quartet, and the string quartet is Tesla Quartet, and they're New York based. Yes, they reached out to me through the New Music USA, and so they reached out to 12 composers, all from different backgrounds, which is really cool. We got on a Zoom call a couple nights ago, and we all got to meet each other. And I think going into it, I was really nervous because of my musical background, and I've never written for a string quartet before. So this is a brand new experience, and I didn't know what they were looking for. But then we got on the Zoom call, and everyone else's ideas gave me an idea of like the fact that I can do anything I want, essentially. So that's what I've been working on this week, which is really nice to also just have a project to work on, like a concrete project with a deadline. I think I work well on deadlines, so it's been tough recently not having something to look forward to or something to finish by a certain date. So I was having a hard time kind of practicing or working on anything, and I think that's okay. I've talked to a lot of my creative friends, and I think we're all struggling to stay motivated right now, and I think that's okay. And I think there'll be waves where I'll want to write music and work on stuff, and then other days where I'm like, I'm just not going to touch my horn today, and that's okay.
Oh, no, there's a rhythm to this. And I think it's an artist. It's something that we all share as artists. We're getting into learning that rhythm, and what is that rhythm of creativity comes in waves, like you said. So
Definitely, yeah. So this week has been a good, productive week, but there will be other weeks where they won't be as productive, and that's okay.
it's fine.
Yeah.
You're still in the game. That's what counts. So I wanted to ask you about another really cool thing I read in your bio, which is on the whole very, very impressive, just the sheer number of venues you've played at and people you've worked with. But I'm just curious because one kind of struck me being kind of a jazz musician. How did the SNL and the full frontal opportunity work out?
Yeah. So the opportunity with Lizzo came after working with Demi, and I think because of working with her, I was put on some sort of list of people they can hire when they're looking for a trombonist. So a good friend of mine, Kyla Moskovich, she's a really great trumpet player who's based in LA now. She reached out to me about the Demi gig because she was contracting the horn section. And so it was me, her, this really great saxophonist, Haley Neiswanger, and then another great saxophonist, Addison Evans. So the four of us, where she put together this really great horn section to accompany Demi when she released Confident. And I forget what year that was. I think it was 2016 or 17. I should know this. I was still in school at the time, and that was one of the first times I worked with a pop artist. So it was really surreal. And
2015.
2015. Okay, time flies. Yeah, so that was my first experience working with a pop artist, and it's really different from any other setting that I had worked in before. But,
Did you get a chance like one-on-one talk with her?
yeah, so we had to fly out to LA and rehearse for a couple days, and then fly right back to New York, and then a week later we did the show. But she came into the rehearsal, and she was really nice and introduced herself to everyone individually. And she's a really hard worker and sounds amazing. It was a really, really great experience. I know playing with pop artists the experience can vary in certain ways, and it can be either a really great experience or really awful. So I'm lucky that the times that I've worked with artists in that field, it's been really rewarding.
Wow. And so you were kind of put on this list, and then that's how the Lizzo opportunity came too?
I guess so, yeah, because then they reached out to me. Lizzo's creative manager reached out to me, and then I put together a horn section for that show.
Wow. So you did the whole horn section.
Yeah, so I did the horn section, and then I helped with most of the arrangements for we played one of her songs, and then we played we played another song, and so we got together the day before and rehearsed everything and like worked out a horn arrangement amongst the three of us.
If the viewers or listeners want to find what song you were on, what's the name of Lizzo's song or album you were on?
So let me
Or we can even play it. I can pull it up and play it.
check and I need to remember this. I love Lizzo, so I should remember this. I have a funny story tied to this as well that I'll tell in a second. Okay, so we played her song "Good as Hell."
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fun. She's a lot of fun, and her whole team is really nice, and yeah, just really great to work with. So that was also another fun experience. But I will say that that performance was election day, the day after election day 2016. So the performance was supposed to be a celebration of our first female president.
Right.
In the past usually meant.
So I remember we were in rehearsals like the day before, and I brought up like, what if she doesn't win, which is a huge possibility, obviously.
That was providential.
And her director was like, "Oh yeah, I mean, we'll worry about that when it happens." And it happened, and I remember getting up super early that morning and getting on the subway in New York, and everyone's crying, and heading to Midtown at 6 a.m., like just dead and exhausted and depressed, and like having to put on this performance. And we all just said like, it's going to be a weird tone, but you know, at least we're here and we get to play music together. So.
Oh wow. Yeah, there's tensions running high that woo, it was right on the cusp, but still really cool you got to work with Lizzo. Are you in touch, like now that you're on that list, are you looking forward to more opportunities with certain artists, or do you get to have some say, like I want to work with this person, or
No say really.
you're just like you get the call and you go?
It normally happens like once a year or once every other year. It's really infrequent. So, you know, when I do get a call, it's always random, but I'm thankful to get a call. Yeah, so nothing on the horizon, especially now, but hopefully in the future, I would love to work with her again.
Yeah, a soloist or featured like a...
That would be great. So I wouldn't turn down any opportunity, especially to play with the both of them. It was just a really good experience, and I've heard other stories from other people that artists that I wouldn't want to work with. So
Wow, that's an incredible opportunity. That's so cool. So, wow. Wow, that was a lot we covered. I could just keep going on and on because your bio is mind blowing. Just everything on there. It's very amazing. But yeah, I wondered if we can maybe end Hannah's Corner with one more of your original upcoming songs, if you want to maybe introduce it and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the next song I'll play is called An Unwelcome Visit, and it's another recent composition of mine that I've mainly played with Quartet, and then I've arranged for my solo project after, like, you know, bringing it to a couple different settings. I realized that this song works well in a solo setting, and I wrote it in this very room. There's a lot of cats that walk past our window, and there was one specific day when I was sitting down writing the song that they were fighting. Like, right, I had the window up, and all I just hear is just like cat screeches, and so then I'm writing the song, and I decided to name it An Unwelcome Visit, inspired by the cat fight. But it's not a chaotic song or anything, so I don't know. I'm not great at naming songs, but that's what we settled on.
You're trying to calm him down, right? You're trying to just play something soothing. You're like, just stop.
So that was the idea behind it.
Very nice.
Cool.
Cool. I was like in a trance. It was really nice.
It's so interesting playing just to my computer. The couple times I've done these like live streams, I'm so unaware of how it's sounding through the computer, so I get nervous that that it's too full, or the sound isn't coming across how I'm hearing it. So
Well, if it's any consolation, it sounds great. I mean, the sound is full and rich, and you're hearing the full expression of the cycle, and it's smooth, and that is. So was that? How did that work? You come up with like one melody, and then you just like put it through a filter, and then you taught yourself how to use all that, right?
yeah, for the most part, I so I'd always wanted to use pedals. A lot of my friends, their setups include pedals, and so I've seen a couple of horn players who I really admire use pedals in the way that I wanted to use them. So that's delay and looping and harmonizing. I didn't really use the harmonizer so much. Well, I didn't use it just now, but on the piece earlier, I used it a little bit. So yeah, I'm comfortable with what I have. I only have 3 pedals, and I'm hoping to expand my setup at some point. But I'm just not very like electronically adept. So
I definitely. It makes it sound like you have a whole band with you in a way, like you fill up the whole room, you know?
it's amazing. Like I did in February. It's actually the last time I used these pedals. Was in LA. I did a workshop. It was a performance forum at CalArts. And I remember when we were discussing the forum, I wanted to bring a musician or two, and but then he said, "Oh, well, like, have you ever done solo shows before?" And I had just played a couple in New York last year, so I was like, "Oh yeah, I can bring my pedals." I had never flown with my pedals before, so I was a little nervous about that, so that's why I didn't consider it. But I brought it out, and so that was the first time I played that song solo, was at CalArts. And because before that, what I was talking about earlier about bringing in just something as simple as a melody and like playing a rubato, that's with that song. I just brought it into my band. I was like, hey, here's this melody. Let's play it. Like, somebody can double it with me, but let's just kind of create like a whole arrangement on the spot. So it sounds really different with a band and other instruments, but it's worked nicely in a solo setting. So it's one of my favorite songs to play with my pedals, because it's like one key center, so I can kind of just I created a loop with a fifth and then just play it on top of that.
Pretty, pretty. I can almost hear it like your music is like a new age kind of soundscape, for almost like a something you put on if you're meditating or like doing deep breathing practices. Just another thought that came into my head, like how cool, to have that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was talking to my friend about this recently, because he plays bass, and he was with his pedals. He was creating like really beautiful and ambient soundscapes, and he was like, "Oh, if anyone wants music to go along with their yoga, like let me know, and I'll send this to you." And so he sent it to me, and I'm like, "This is perfect for a yoga class." And even the yoga instructor that I use, I don't. It's a YouTube yoga instructor, and I don't love the music that she often puts along with the videos. So I've thought about at a certain point reaching out to her and saying, like, if you ever are interested in like someone writing music for your videos, like I would love to do something like that.
yeah, why not? Another revenue stream.
Yeah,
In a way to not go crazy when you're listening to her YouTube videos. Actually hear yourself and be like, yes.
because when I'm doing it, like she'll put on a beat or something. I'm like, that doesn't really seem to go
Or Zumba, right?
for Zumba, not yoga. I'm trying to relax here, I'm trying to ease the anxiety I'm currently experiencing.
Need more music. I feel like we need more music like that. Ease, anti-anxiety, like easing, like de-stressing. And I think that's a really cool side of your music. Because not only obviously you play jazz and have great chops, as I imagine you study at Juilliard, but you have this side to offer too, like multi sides of your sound. It's really
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's been a cool project to kind of delve into. And now that most of some of the streaming shows I'm doing, I'm glad that I have this set up to use, when I don't have a band with me or someone to accompany me. So it's nice to have this set up at least. at least in this setting, but also live performances too.
Sure. Where can listeners, friends, and fans hear you next? You have an upcoming live stream?
I have a workshop scheduled for June 3rd through Live from Our Living Rooms, I believe it's called. And so it's not really a workshop as much as it's going to be like a, again, like a performance form where I'm going to play a little bit and then talk about my influences. I can comment on the video after this and let people know where to find that.
Yeah.
So that's June 3rd. I'm doing that Live from Our Living Rooms. And then after that, there's this really great online festival that's been happening for weeks now. And I think their goal is to do it over the span of 8 weeks. And it's called Act 4 Music, Act the number 4 and then music. And I'm presenting a 30-minute set on June 9th.
Oh, wow.
I think there's 4 artists that day. So they always feature 4 different artists on every day. So I'm pre-recording a 30-minute set, and then that will be aired on June 9th on their website.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. There's opportunities to keep you busy, keep it fresh. It's really, really important.
Yeah, I'm thankful to have things to distract me right now.
Good to have these motivating forces, right? So,
Yeah.
and in a way why I created Hannah's Corner, to meet cool people like you, to stay, current, to stay involved and collaborate. And
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me too. I really appreciate this format too, because I haven't done something like this before where it's more of a conversation and playing a little bit. I feel like when it's only playing, I'm just in my head the whole time, but it's nice to like connect with someone and have a conversation.
Yeah. I'm finding the balance too. I would love to hear from viewers on what you prefer, more performance to more talking, and what balance. But we're trying to find a good balance. So it's still fairly new, but open to ideas, everybody, for tuning in. So.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for being willing to be on Hannah's Corner, and thanks for your time. And you cannot wait for your next, your more single music to come out. The music with the looping and the pedal. Cannot wait to hear it. So beautiful. And everyone tune in. So we have June 3rd and June 9th, and you'll be posting more about that in the description. So
Definitely.
that's good. Well, hang in there, Kalia. I hope you're going to stay well and healthy, and that goes for your significant other and your family as well. So
You as well.
thanks. Hey, have a good night. Great talking with you.
You too.
Okay, bye. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. For those of you who don't know, this will be, for those of you who haven't signed up to my newsletter and still need to, wink, wink, if you sign up on my newsletter, you'll get all the updates. We send it about once a week. But this will be our last of the weekly Hannah's Corners. However, we're going to be still doing monthly installments of Hannah's Corner. There'll be a little questionnaire that I'm going to be sending out to you all on Friday, basically asking for some feedback on when and what you'd like to see on Hannah's Corner. And I will be definitely keeping in touch, some impromptu jam sessions. I know a lot of you want me to get playing a little bit more, so that will be coming up. And hope everyone's staying well and healthy. This has been so fun to do this and to be able to connect with you guys, and looking forward to more of them. Please reach out with guests and artists you'd like to see on Hannah's Corner. Always open to hearing. Have a great night, and I will be in touch soon. Thanks, everyone.